Hey guys, now we will be looking at the third part of how to render lists in 2025. Now we will create a dynamic events based if there's a delete, there's a new record, or there's an update. And based on those, we will set two options. If there's an update of a record, we don't need to refresh the whole request. But if there's a new record or a delete, we need to call that request with the current page where we at currently. So let me just show you the whole setup. Because now we will have two database triggers. One of them will be on an update, and the second one will be if there's a new record or if there's a deleted record. So let's take a look to it right away. Now we have our current page, as you guys can see right now. I just added this component inside Webflow. This is just a text with a Wized attribute. That's it. Nothing has changed here in the front end. Now, obviously, I want to set the arrows here so I can disable and enable them, just so you can see, what's, let's do something here. Let's just take this attribute. Let's just do page number out of the total. So this is the current page out of the total, so we can see how that gets updated real time. Out of pages total. Okay, awesome. Let's publish this. I won't be doing that disable class animation here. I will be showing it here in the example so you can see the live update. So the most important part here, or the key part here on the setup, is the triggers in our database now, and how we set up the response to the front end. So this is the editor record. This is from the part 2 tutorial. Here we're going to change it slightly. So we're going to keep the old item here. Let's just even set it differently, slightly differently. So on an object here, we will be setting here. We will be setting type, and this will be update. Great, awesome. And then we will set another object called data, where we'll be setting up what we had in the past. So inside data, we will be setting old item ID. Where will this be? Old ID. Great. And we will clone this, and this will be new item. And we will call this, we will pass the new item. Awesome. Set it as done and publish. So now the only thing that we need to change in our front end is here how we reference the information. So here, instead of data.new item, will be data.new item, and the same here, data.new item. Instead of call it data, let's just call it something more specific so we don't repeat the same word. Instead of call it data, let's call it information, whatever. Just so it's not the same, so it doesn't sound redundant. Data information. Okay, great. Perfect. And now we should be fine. Awesome. So let's see if this is still working now that we have updated it slightly. But now we have a type of event. So based on that, we can create certain logic. So let's just inspect here our console. Let's just open a new tab here with our database, with our table. Let's go to people. Let's just remove this. Great, it was updated. Let's take a look to our front end. Awesome, it was updated. And in our console, okay, so it's working. Let's just check. Let's just clean this so we have a clear console. Let's update it again so we can see what happened. Okay, great. We got the data from Xano, and now we have, the type of event that is an update, and we have also the information inside the event. So we can create another trigger in our database where we have another type, where it's add or delete. Let's do that. So here in our table, let's go and create a new trigger. Let's add a new trigger, add or delete, for example. And then here, this will be on inserts or deletes, or truncates even. Yeah, we don't need this event really, but either way, if you want to have it, it will still work. So let's save that. And now the cool thing is going to be this. So the only thing that we need to pass in this event is this. Let's call channel people data, and we will set the type to be add or delete. Great. Let's save this. Let's publish. And now we will create a logic here in our front end based on that. So how will that work? Let me show you guys. So we want to go through all of these steps if the type of event is update. So let's do here a conditional if message that data that type equals update. Then we want to go through this flow right here. Otherwise, we want to go through else. And we don't even need an else. We can say also, in case we have other events, if add or delete, if I'm not wrong, we set it up that way, right? Add or delete. Perfect. If it equals add or delete, then what we want to do is we want to trigger the request again on the same page where we add. So let me just explain. Let's imagine we're on the last page of our query, and then there's a new record, and we have, for example, we're on the third page and there are 18 items in total. So we are on the last page. So whenever we will create a new record, there will be 19 records. So there has to be a new page. There won't be an update here, but I should see it right here in the total of pages. So let's set this up so we can see it. So let's go here, current page. Let's set the text, return are the people that data that current page. Perfect. By the way, let's just publish this. And the total is pages total. Perfect. Let's rescan the attributes. Wait a second. Pages total. Did I not remove the attribute of this thing? All right, should have removed that. Okay, let's publish again. Pages total. Let's return this. Let's continue with this people while this pages total. Awesome. Perfect. 1 out of 3. And now let's just also set up the rules of the arrows here. Let's just call it previous arrow, just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Previous arrow with next arrow. And let's also create a class is disabled. Is disabled, and then let's just events none, and I don't know, opacity 20%, for example. Okay, great. We can set it up by like this by default, and then we can create a the toggle inside Wized. By default, the first arrow, the previous arrow will always be disabled. And then we can, trigger that on Wized to change it. Now, awesome, great. Let's continue with it. Let's rescan the attributes. So now, previous arrow, this will have a class of is disabled if this condition is met, is set to be true. Data that if previous page equals no, if I'm not wrong, right? True. Yeah, great. The same with next is disabled if are people that data that next page equals no, and this is false. Awesome. Now we want to create the triggers. So previous page. Before we do that, let's go to our API request. Let's go to people. And now let's also add, obviously we need to pass here the page. Add input page, the current page where we at. And here inside external page, we will pass the input page. Great. Perfect. So inside Wized, we can pass also here the parameters page, and this could be a variable. Yes, this can be a variable. Let's create a variable here called people page, people pagination page. By default, this will be 1. Great. Now let's go to our events. Previous arrow, add event, on click. We want to prevent the default, and then we want to set a variable called people page, and this is going to be the value that we set called our people. Let's not do that. Let's just do our people data previous page. Obviously, even though we have disabled the click of the element whenever previous page is null, but let's just set it here also too. Conditional only if people that previous doesn't equal null. Great. Awesome. Let's do the same thing here. By the way, we forgot to trigger the request after it. Once we set the variable, what we want to do is perform the request. Obviously, people. Great. Next arrow 2. Let's do the same thing. On click, prevent default, set variable. Let's just do the conditional here. Let's remove the conditional here and let's set the conditional here at the top. Great. Let's do the same with next arrow. On click, let's set the conditional here where are the people that data that next page doesn't equal no. Great. And now we set the variable once again, people page index return are people that data that next page. Awesome. And then after that, let's perform the request people. Great. So we have the events of the arrows done. So if I refresh here this, okay, what is going on? Item. Let's take a look to the history of our request. Input, nope. Okay. So this was the last request that we triggered, 12:50, so 5 minutes ago. Let's refresh this. What did we break here? Let's take a look. Let's take a look to what the request is sending us. So let's take a look to people, undefined. So let's take a look to the request because we broke something. Okay, here, return the variable people index. Sorry. That's not the variable. It's the one that we created called people pagination. Okay, great. So now we have completed the request, so it should be working fine. Let's refresh this. Great. If I, let me also set the arrow here. Let's remove the class. Let's set the default arrow to be pointer. By the way, if you remove a class here, make sure that you set it up in a style page, because if I clear the CSS, it will remove the class. I won't be clearing out the CSS, so it should still work. That is disable combo class, but keep that in mind. Always set your, inside the style the classes that you will be using in your functions, so you still have that CSS that will affect your components. So refresh here. Okay, great. Now if I click here, we're at the second page out of 3, and we're at the third page where we only have 1 record. Okay, cool. Now let's go to the cool part. Now what is going on here? I'm not able to go back. Let's take a look. Previous arrow, set variable. Oh, we are returning this again. Okay, this should fix it. Okay, awesome. Now let's finish this, the last part of the setup. So we already have the conditional if if the event is update. So this is already working. We know that. Now let's do it in a way where we create just this setup. So we're going to look into the Wized SDK, like the Wized documentation, so we can trigger their API, because we will trigger the people request right here. Because the variable really with the page hasn't changed, so it should trigger the same page where we add. So if we remove a record, it's going to be pretty cool. Let me just show you. Okay, here let's go to Wized API, and we want to trigger a request here. Wized data, where is it? Reactivity was execute right here. This is what we need. Perfect. This is all what this is everything that we need. So what we want to do is we want to trigger people. That's it. As simple as that. And this should do the work. So now let's test it. Let's test the whole thing. This is going to be pretty cool. So we're on the first page. So, and we have a sort, right? We have a sort and order. So let's choose, first of all, we have right now 14 records, and 14 records, right? Let me just confirm that. So if we have 14 records, we should have 3 pages. On the first one we have 6, on the second one we have 6, so in total 12, so there should be 2 records here. Why it's only 1 appearing? That's weird. Oh no, we have one of the IDs is missing, the ID number 11. So we have, okay, let's just remove, so 1 record. So if we delete this record, we should see an update here. So we should see 2 pages out of 2. Let's take a look. So if I delete this, oh, okay. So we are on the page number 3 that doesn't exist. So this is an edge case. Oh my God, yeah. So we need to look into this. In case the page where we at, there were, where it has been cleared out, where there are no records, we need to go back to the first page. This is really cool. This is really cool. This is an edge case that we can, we can set up for the 4 part. But now as you can see, let's just set an example here. For example, let's remove Jane Ramos. Let's just remove Jane Ramos. Great. It was removed automatically. And on the page where we at, let's update Sean Jenkins, for example. So now Sean Jenkins 3. And we got the update. So now this is super dynamic. Let's add a new record here. Let's say on Norma Avat. Let's say James Avat. That's funny. They used my last name too. Or I think I updated this in the past. Great. It added a new record. Now let's create a new one. So once again, test name. So it automatically opened the third page for us because this was disabled before. So that's pretty cool. Now let's leave for the fourth part. How to go back, to the previous page in case we're in the last page and the element is removed. This is an edge case, and this is pretty weird. And we might, instead of changing the page, what I'm thinking is we can have an empty state for the person. Like, yeah, that makes sense because it's weird for me, like as for my user experience, like we have two options. Or I can send the user back to the second page, and that would be weird because I didn't do anything as a user. Or I think it makes more sense for the user experience just to have an empty state here. Like there are no pages or there are no items on this page. I think that makes more sense because if I automatically change the page where the current user is, that would be weird for me. So let's set the empty state on that scenario. That's even simpler, but I think it makes more sense for the user experience. I hope you guys like this tutorial, and I hope you guys use it on all the web apps you guys build. Thank you so much.